Just going to share in the chat if you want to practice with some music this evening. There's the Spotify playlist. Okay, so a lot going on this week. A lot of transitions, a lot of noise from the external world with elections and lockdown 2.0 coming in, and I just really feel like it's weeks like this where there's like real gold to be had in our yoga practice, because it's weeks like this that yoga can really ground us, really calm and soothe. And we're so lucky, like yoga has such a rich like tapestry of wisdom to draw on when we're going through this. The process of yoga is really the process of self-inquiry and self-reflection. You know, this asking, this excavation of like who we are. And this current moon cycle, we're spending some time with the kosha model, which is this wisdom that proposes there are 5 layers to our being. And it starts with this physical, kind of very tangible layer. So literally you can feel the container of this physical layer, the skin, the muscles, the bones, the blood. It's like the DNA of what makes you who you are. And then all of the layers start to become ever more like ethereal, like the closer you get to the core, this kind of blissful state of contentment. And I'm reading this amazing book at the moment, which is all about stress, burnout, and yoga. And the author, Fiona Agumbar, has got this beautiful phrase that's like listening to the whispers of your body. And it occurred to me, despite this kosha model saying that the layers become ever more ethereal, like the mind and emotion, which is actually our 3rd layer, like I'm sure you can all relate, when we're feeling very stressed, when there's a lot of stimulation going on, like this layer is so powerful, and sometimes it becomes very difficult to listen to our bodies. And what bridges between the body and the mind is the breath. So this is what we're going to explore this evening, this relationship between those 3 layers. And it's a yin practice tonight, so super juicy, lots of release, lots of sensation to be in. So let's begin. We're just going to need like 2 or 3 pillows, maybe a belt, have that as an option. And let's start by undoing the day. So we're going to do a little bit of movement before we come into our yin poses. So we're going to start in a tabletop position. So spreading the fingertips wide, wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. And we're going to come into cat-cow. So exhaling, coming into your cat, arching the spine, drop the head. Inhaling, coming into your cow, looking forward, heart forward. Exhaling. Inhaling. So keeping that simple movement going, synchronizing with the breath. So as you're coming into that arch, that's called flexion of the spine. And as you're coming into the dipping of the belly, this is called extension. So these 2 movements are 2 most simple movements that you can do with your spine. And there's this lovely, almost like some symbiotic relationship happening. So just tuning into like how there's this kind of curvature and stretch in the mid-back as you're coming into that flexion in the thoracic spine. And when you're dropping the belly, how that transfer gets moved to the cervical and the lumbar spine, so the top and the bottom of the back. And it's like this constant kind of toing and froing between the 2, this relationship, this balance. And stretching the front of the body, stretching the back of the body. might want to just look at the screen very briefly. We're going to come back into a tabletop position. And then we're going to turn the body to the right and come to stretch to the right side of the body. So you're bringing your right foot, left knee, left hand all in one long line. And this is going to open up the right side of the body. You might want to start by bringing a hand onto the shoulder. And just exploring some circles here. So this doesn't need to be a perfect movement. It's more about just bringing some flow into the shoulders and really kind of anchoring into the outer edge of that right foot. What we're going to do is stretch now the right arm alongside the right ear. So really feeling like the length of you from the outer edge of that right foot all the way along the right side of the body out through the right fingertips. And then reaching up now, right fingertips up towards the sky. And feeling the breadth of you, like this wingspan of the arms. Deep, expansive breaths. And then coming back into a tabletop, couple of cat-cows. Moving with the breath. And we'll do that on the other side. So this time we're going to turn to the left. Extend that left leg, left foot in line with the right knee, in line with the right hand. I'm going to start some movements. Hand comes onto the left shoulder. Circling that left elbow, changing direction. Doesn't need to be this perfect circular movement. Just doing intuitively what feels good in the body. We're going to come into that lengthening all along the left side of the body. So rooting down through the outer edge of that left foot and then all the way out through the left fingertips. Breathing in, stretching the obliques. And then reaching up towards the sky, left fingertips reaching out, fingertips engaged. Feeling that breath. And then coming back into a tabletop, a few rounds of cat-cow just to release. And then coming into a comfortable seated position, you might want to sit on a pillow or two, raising the hips. I'm going to do a little bit more for our shoulders. So the muscles in between the shoulder blades, back of the body, are called the rhomboids. What we're going to do, bring the right arm on top of the left, and we're literally just going to give ourselves a big hug. And with your fingertips, you might be able to feel the outer edges of your shoulder blades. And kind of nestle in there, just give yourself a little bit of a massage. Okay, as your next inhale, we're going to open the arms. Arms come into a cactus shape, open the heart. Exhale, left arm on top of the right, coming into that hug. Arch the back of the body. Inhale, opening up, open the chest, breathing in. Right arm on top, give yourself a big hug, folding in. 2 more times, inhaling to open. Left arm on top, give yourself a big hug. Last time, opening the arms. Okay, and then just rolling the shoulders a few times. So the first shape we're going to come into is Malasana or squat. I'm going to give a few options here. You might want to have a pillow or two to hand. So it might be that you have got heels, Achilles tendons, that mean you can come into a squat without any support. Now, this isn't me. My heels lift when I come into a squat. So for me, I would place a pillow underneath the heels so I've got that support. And you might need one or two pillows. If a squat doesn't feel right for you this evening, you could also come to lie onto your back, draw the knees in towards the armpits. You could even come into a happy baby, soles of the feet up towards the sky, maybe having a belt around the soles of the feet and drawing in. If you're coming into a squat, your feet are pointing out about a 45-degree angle. And then there's this connection, elbows into the inner knees, and then your palms touch. So coming into another symbiotic relationship here. What the elbows are doing, it really sort of creates a container, a structure to the shape. So you're opening up very gently into the inner thighs, the hips. And then this connection also allows you to lengthen the spine, sort of expand the lower ribs. So if you can soften the belly. So this is medicine for the low back. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of muscle and ligaments that's kind of connected. The focal point of this shape is the pelvic bowl. So there's a kind of anchoring into the pelvis whilst you're encouraging this lightness in the top part of the body. Keeping the heart open. Noticing how there's a tidal like quality to the breath. Tide comes in as you inhale. Exhale, the tide goes out. Be here for a few more breaths. Really start to slow things down. Final breath here. Gently releasing. I'm going to come into a brief hero's pose. So kneeling, knees together. You could bring a pillow underneath your seat just to cushion between heels and hips. Just resting the hands down into your lap. Spine is long, bring the eyes to close. Belly soft. And noticing the after effects being in that squat. So that squat was warming us up for dragon. And we're going to do a couple of little versions with our dragon pose this evening. And to kind of make sure you have some pillows close by. We're going to get our foundation really strong before we sink in. We're going to start in a tabletop position. Start with the left leg first. Left side is our yin side. And step the left foot in between your hands to begin with. And take care of that back knee. You might want to have a pillow underneath that back knee. You might want to experiment with where you want that back knee to be, maybe avoiding the kneecap. For me personally, when I come into this pose, I'm sort of resting. It's just above the kneecap, sort of at the very tip of where the right thigh begins. And then we're going to bring our left hand onto the inside of that left foot. But for the first couple of minutes, see if you can keep those left toes pointing forward. And we're going to keep the inner left knee very close in to our left arm. So depending on how open you're feeling this evening, that relationship might be somewhere on that upper left arm, or it might be like the left shoulder. It's in connection with that inner left knee. Remember, you could place a couple of pillows underneath your palms. And starting to settle. So remembering in yin, we're exploring our edge. So that doesn't necessarily mean coming into the fullest expression of where you can stretch. There's this kind of delicate exploration of you're coming into a place which feels interesting, like there's definitely sensation. And it's a place that you can hold therapeutically for the body for 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes. As you start to open the body, it's such a potent pose to check in with yourself and just see in this moment, is it the sensation that I'm feeling in my body? Or is it the mind that's the dominant layer to who I am right now? And if I bring an expansive quality to the breath, what happens to that experience? Okay, we're going to tweak our dragon slightly. So we're going to turn our left toes out to a 45-degree angle, and then maybe coming onto the outer edge of that left foot. So the left knee can just gently fall a bit more to the left side. So it's not such a close relationship now, left arm to inner left knee. And you might feel ready to come down onto the forearms. You might want to stay supported with your pillows. You might even want to bring a protective hand onto that left knee. As you're breathing in, you're drawing like fresh oxygen into the body, this prana. You're feeding the Pranayama Kosha, this second layer to our being. And as you breathe out, there's this downward flow, this down and out. And this is called apana. And there's a detoxification that's happening. It's the carbon dioxide leaves the body. I'm just going to be here for 3 more deep breaths. Seeing if you can stay with that expansive, deep quality, noticing if there's a temptation to speed anything up to get to the end. When you're ready, just really slowly and gently with yourself, making your way into a child's pose. And something that I've noticed in my practice is like coming into a full child's pose after such a potent stretch can sometimes feel a bit jarring after dragon's pose. So you might want to knees wide, big toes touching, maybe have a pillow to lie your front body on, pillow underneath hips, between hips and heels, or you could rest your forehead down onto your palms. So letting that all percolate. And we'll do that on the right side. So coming into a tabletop position. And we're going to take our time, just get really set up, get really stable in our foundation. Step the right foot forward in between the hands to begin with. Make sure you've got the right support for your left knee. And tuning into that placement of the left knee as well. Maybe coming off the kneecap. You could have pillows underneath your palms as we bring the right hand onto the inside of that right foot. And to start with, we're going to keep the right toes pointing forward. And this close relationship touching of the inner right knee and either the right arm, or maybe the right shoulder is nestling there. And what we're doing is coming into slightly different places in the hip joint with these 2 variations of dragon. So this is really coming into that kind of hip crease at the front of the body, and like it's a much more central sensation into the hip joint. I'm going to give it some time to open, to release. Okay, so then we're going to come into that slight variation now. I'm going to turn the right toes out to a 45-degree angle and maybe come onto the outer edge of that right foot. Now you're kind of coming into a slightly different sensation and placement in that hip joint. And even a bit more into the glute, maybe even the hamstrings, just tuning into that. And you might be able to come a little deeper with your arms here. So exploring that. And as you settle in here, I'm going to read to you from Fiona's book. It's this book on stress and burnout, and it's from a chapter called The Magic of the Breath. The stress that comes with 20 browser tabs being open at once, while all the world shouts at you through news and social media and parades their spectacular lives and bodies all over Facebook and Instagram, tends to be felt in a particular way. We can often feel panicky and anxious, and our pulse rate seems to soar. I don't know of a quicker, more effective way of reducing this kind of stress than breathing. It's something we all have access to all the time, and yet so much about how we live our lives today conspires to prevent us from doing it properly. It's as if the modern world has got its hand over our mouths. So take a long, slow, deep breath. And very slowly, very gently, making your way into a very gentle child's pose. Knees wide, toes touching, taking whatever pillow support, or maybe creating that pillow for your forehead with your palms. And just kind of bask in the afterglow of what you've just physically endured. Dragon pose is one of the most intense yin poses. What does it feel like to be in so much sensation and then for it to be over? Okay, so we're going to do 2 poses in a sequence on the left side and then onto the right side. Continuing with this release, lower part of the body, hips, legs, really juicy couple of poses. So you might want to have your pillows close by. Option to do these poses with no support, or you might want to sit onto a pillow if you're feeling a little tighter around the hips and hamstrings this evening. We're going to come into half shoelace. So bending the left knee from a seated position, legs out in front, bending the left knee. And then we're going to bring that left foot so that it's nestled kind of on the floor, just in front of the right hip. And you're stacking the knees. If that feels uncomfortable on the knees, what you could also do is rest the left ankle on the right thigh. Because what we're really interested in here is actually what's going to happen on the outer seam of this right leg. So relax the right toes. Take a deep breath in. You're lengthening the sides of the body, and then you probably won't need to fold forward too far before you start to feel some sensation. What we're doing is opening up. There'll be a kind of switching on all along this IT band, this outer seam. There might be some sensation into the hamstring. It's quite a different sensation from dragon pose. There's definitely a lot still to feel, but it's quite a kind of delicate intensity. So notice what's going on with the breath. The quality of the breath can tell you a lot about the quality of what's happening in the mind and the emotions. Notice what happens to the sensation as you stay and linger. It might be that where you're feeling this starts to morph and change. A few more deep breaths here. So we're going to turn this into a seated sleeping swan. As you next inhale, lengthening the spine, we're going to bring the ankle on top of the right thigh, and then reaching back, so you're supporting yourself, fingers pointing forward with the palms, and then bending that right knee. And you're in control here. Like the deeper the angle here, or the more acute the angle, the more intense the stretch. And see if you can avoid kind of sinking with your shoulders. So kind of using the arms to help elongate the spine and keep the heart open. So you're coming into the piriformis here, which is like this muscle that wraps the hip joint, the hip bone into the pelvis. And it's one of those, I think, for some of us, this can feel like, oh, like there's like a deep but quite satisfying ache to open this up, because we do so much sitting. This is kind of the antidote to that. Although also, it's not just sitting. If you do a lot of running or cycling, this will also feel super juicy. And keep attending to the breath. So the breath is what keeps you coming back to the present moment. It's what kind of starts to calm thoughts, emotions that might be stirred up. And it's also what allows you to kind of explore the depth of the shape, like working with that inhale and exhale. Okay, take a deep breath in, and then as you exhale, just gently, maybe lengthening the legs. You might want to just give them a little bit of a shake. We'll do that on the other side. So bending the right knee this time, stepping the right foot over, and then drawing that right foot kind of close to that left hip. You're stacking the knees, remembering that you can also come into a variation, stacking ankle on top of the left thigh if that doesn't feel good for your knees. And relaxing the left foot, left toes, just let them go. And then inhaling to lengthen, exhale, starting to explore on this side. And it probably doesn't look like a lot to start with. It doesn't take a lot of movement to kind of switch on that sensation. Hamstrings, outer seam of that left leg. So if you can relax that right leg, that top leg, letting go of any tension or gripping. Tuning into the breath as it streams into the belly at the internal sensations of the breath as it fills the belly, fills the chest. And then inhaling to come up. We're going to turn this into a seated sleeping swan on this side. So right ankle coming on top of the left thigh, and then you're supporting yourself, fingers pointing forward, and then bending that left knee. Just finding a place, an angle that works for your hip, your knee, and then keeping that spine elongated so you're not sinking into the back of the body. There's a broadness across the front. So with each exhale, it's like you're very gently, one breath at a time, just kind of diffusing, dissolving all of that gripping and tension that builds up around the hips and the pelvis. A few more deep breaths here. And then releasing. Stretch your legs out in front of you. The legs a bit of a shake. I'm actually going to release by coming into butterfly pose just for a few breaths. So bringing the soles of the feet together, and there's a lovely big diamond shape in between the legs. And just nestling in left and right sitting bone, anchored equally into the earth, and then just taking a big inhale, exhale, folding forward, allowing the back of the body to arch. Elongating, stretching the spine. Okay, take a deep breath in, going to sit back up, and we're going to make our way onto the floor. Make sure you've got a pillow to hand. You're going to come into a cradle pose to begin with. So coming to lie onto your back, draw the knees in towards the chest, hugging around the shins, gently rocking from side to side. I'm going to take a pillow and place the pillow in between your legs, your lower legs. Okay, and just bring your feet down onto the floor with the pillow in between the lower legs. And we're just going to bring the hips a few inches over towards the left. And then lifting the knees up, we're going to allow all of the legs to fall over to the right side. And then extending your arms in line with the shoulders. You could keep your head in a neutral position here, so forehead pointing up towards the sky, or you might want to turn your head towards the left. Allowing that left shoulder to feel heavy. A really nice thing to do in a twist is sending the breath to different places, can kind of massage different points in the body. So if you take some really deep, expansive breaths into the belly here, in the twist, you'll notice how there's this kind of internal sensation of massaging around the digestive system. And breathing around the chest. And into the back of the body, there's this kind of massage for the thoracic region of the back. Inhale, draw your legs back up to center. And then placing your feet back down onto the earth. I'm just going to set up for the other side. So coming back to center. And then bring your hips over towards the right. Draw your knees up. And then allow the legs to fall over to the left. Arms, wings of the body just opening up in line with the shoulders. This time allowing that right shoulder to feel heavy. And giving yourself that internal massage, breath into the belly. And once that's felt attended to, breath into the chest and that sensation of massaging around the mid-back, spine, thoracic spine. As you next inhale, drawing the knees back up into center, removing the pillow Going back into a cradle position, knees in towards the chest, just resetting here, massaging the back of the body. And then we're going to get set up for Shavasana, final relaxation. So you might want to have support underneath the head, just a thin pillow underneath the head. And then some pillows underneath the knees can feel really good. Maybe an eye pillow if you have one. Make sure you're warm. You might want to have some socks on. Just nestling down. Just totally freed from like any efforting. Just letting that go, coming into a place of ease, entire body present and relaxed. So I'm going to guide you through very gentle Metta meditation for our Shavasana. Metta meaning loving kindness, and it comes from the Buddhist tradition. And I'm going to focus the Metta meditation on ourselves this evening. And sometimes it can feel a little bit strange to give ourselves this loving kindness, attention. There's a quote from the Buddha that you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserves your love and affection. Just know that by filling up with this act of kindness for yourself, that there'll be more for you to give. So with each exhale, say to yourself the following: may I be healed. May I be whole. May I be loved. May I be loving. Exhaling. May I be healed. May I be whole. May I be loved. May I be loving. May I be healed. May I be whole. May I be loved. May I be loving. So if you have the time and the space and you want to stay exactly where you are, then please do. Otherwise, taking your thumbs and gently tracing the tips of your fingers. Bringing some movement into the toes. Might start to stretch out the backs of the legs, reaching out through the heels. You could stretch the arms up overhead. Draw the knees in towards the chest. And then gently rolling over onto one side. And coming to sit in a comfortable seated position, using your palms to help you come up. And rest our hands over our heart space this evening. And gently bowing the head to the heart, breathing deeply into the space underneath our palms, connecting our head with the wisdom of the heart. Thank you so much for practicing with me this evening. Hope you sleep really well. And I'll see you on the other side of lockdown next week. Okay. Loads of love.